All photos you see in this video were shot on the Nikon ZF. Sound the alarm bells and alert the FBI. Yet another millennial has fallen victim to the modern vintage camera trap, and that guy is me. If you watched my video last week, you might know that I sold my beloved Fujifilm X100V and had a hole in my kit that needed to be filled. I had a hole that needed to be filled. Did I write that down right? I decided that it was time to make the leap to a camera, and actually a whole camera system really, that fit my needs a lot better for both a personal and professional use, as well as a camera that just looked cool. And enter the Nikon ZF. Real quick before we get more into it, this is not a review of the Nikon ZF. This is merely a first impressions kind of video because I have only had the camera for a couple of weeks, and that is not long enough to really have like a full idea of what this camera is all about and how I feel about it. What's up? My name is Walter. I am a wedding photographer and commercial filmmaker based in the southeastern United States, and you get to watch as my desk gets progressively messier and messier after I tell myself that I will clean it, and I never do. So before I get into why I settled on the Nikon ZF, I'd first like to talk about the three cameras that I considered before I landed on the ZF, because I was kind of juggling a few different options here for how I wanted to fill that little void that was left in my kit after the X100V said bye-bye. The first one I considered was the Fujifilm X-H2S. This seemed kind of like a slam dunk decision, kind of a pretty easy, this is the best way to do it, because I already own the Fujifilm X-T5. I did a whole 2-year long-term review of that camera. It's on my channel. It's 40 minutes long, yet is still somehow my most viewed video on this channel, which is crazy, so check that out if you want to hear my thoughts on the X-T5. But I love that camera, still have it. I don't plan on getting rid of that anytime soon, if ever. Jeez. But because I already own the X-T5 and I've got lenses for it, I've got batteries and flashes and accessories and all this stuff already for the Fujifilm X-mount system, it seems like it made the most sense to get another X-mount camera like the X-H2S. Was different enough from the X-T5 to have its value in my kit, but again, similar enough where I could use it alongside the X-T5 pretty easily. The main reason I decided not to get that camera is because I just kept seeing too many stories and reviews of the X-H2S just failing people in professional scenarios, and I just got a little too nervous about that and eventually decided against that camera. Which brings me to the second camera I considered, which was yet another Fujifilm camera, which is the X Pro 2. This would have been an entirely emotional purchase. On paper, there is nothing about this camera that stacks up at all to any of the modern cameras that I own. Either my X-T5 or either of my Sony mirrorless cameras that I use for all my video and some commercial photo work as well. Everything about that camera, the X Pro 2, is just worse than anything I already have, but it's pretty. A couple years ago, I briefly owned the X Pro 3, and loved that camera, and unfortunately it wasn't the best fit for me because of that gimmicky back screen. I think it looked really cool. If I didn't wear glasses, I probably would still have that camera, but I do wear glasses and I need them all the time, and it made it really hard to constantly having to use the EVF to use that camera. So unfortunately I had to let the X Pro 3 go. The X Pro 2 would be a really great option because it has the normal back screen, but the prices of a used X Pro 2 right now are absolutely insane. They're inflated beyond belief for a number of different reasons that I won't even get into right now. All of that together just means like that would not have been a good purchase for me to get the X Pro 2 as much as I might want it. Now, if Fujifilm ever wanted to announce and release an X Pro 4, honey, I'm first in line. I would easily and quickly sell my X-T5 to get an X Pro 4. The third and final camera that I considered to replace my X100V was, you guessed it, yet another Fujifilm camera, but this time a GFX camera, one of their medium formats. I understand that those cameras are very specialized, and if I were to try to get one of those, it would be hard to justify spending that much money on such a camera because rarely do I come into contact with situations that a GFX would make sense in my workflow. So I decided against it. So why did I decide on the Nikon ZF? I just listed 3 Fujifilm cameras that I considered getting to go with my X-T5, and I decided on none of them. I went outside of the camera system completely and landed in the Nikon realm. Why did I do that? And for me, there were 3 main reasons that I decided on the Nikon ZF. 1 is the price to performance. 2 is the focusing experience, both manual and auto, and 3 is the aesthetics. And so I will now talk about all 3 of those things a little more in depth. Price to performance. I snagged the Nikon ZF for $1,500 US. In this economy, that's crazy. What you get, or what I'm getting out of this camera for only $1,500, because I can't guarantee that you will find it for that much, is kind of crazy. The ZF is a full frame camera with all the trappings of most of the modern Nikon Z cameras. So you get great autofocus, not that I've used it yet, but more on that in a little bit. You get the highly versatile Z mount, which means you can use, any of the number of great Nikon Z mount lenses, as well as adapting a ton of other types of lenses if you want to. You get great low light performance. You get a really cool, I think it's either 24 or 26 megapixel sensor, which is the perfect balance for me and what I do. And you even get 2 card slots in a camera like this. I think it's really clever that they put a normal SD card slot and then a micro SD card slot. I think that they did that for like space saving reasons, and I think that's really cool. I really only need the second card slot for redundancy in case the first SD card were to fail, so it's really cool that that's in there. The second reason I got the Nikon ZF was for the focusing experience. This was a big one for me. I would say this is probably the biggest reason, the number 1 reason the Nikon ZF was so appealing for me. If you watch my video I put out a few weeks ago about how and why you should use manual focus lenses on your modern mirrorless cameras, you might remember that I said that manually focusing is such a fun experience that I am diving more and more into it, and I'm doing it more and more this year specifically, both in my personal work and in my professional work like weddings and stuff like that. I've been doing it mostly on my X-T5 with a couple of older, more retro lenses. It's been a really fun experience. I've really loved it. I was thinking I would really love a camera that had an even better manual focusing experience than I can get on my X-T5. All roads led to the Nikon ZF. I could not believe how simple and effective the manual focusing assist features are on the Nikon ZF. And I also cannot believe that no other camera system has tried to steal any of these ideas yet. You see, as long as you have a lens with electronic contacts or a smart adapter with electronic contacts for your lens to the camera, then you get a few very key features to make the manual focusing experience on the ZF insanely easy and fun. The main one is the focus confirmation feature, both for just anything that you have like in your little focus box, or the ability for the camera to see eyes and faces, much like any autofocus lens would, and then give you focus confirmation as you are manually focusing. So if there is a person in my frame, or if I'm just using the normal focus box, I can move that box around as if I was using autofocus. And then whenever it sees whatever object it is in my little focusing box, as I'm turning the manual focus ring, it will turn green when whatever's in that box is in focus. And if you have the little box over somebody's face or eye and it's like tracking them throughout the frame, whenever they come into focus or they move into your focus or you use the focus ring to do that, it will turn green and give you that focus confirmation as well. I cannot believe how good it is. It is so fun and easy to use. It's like the closest, I think, right now out of all the digital cameras on the market that's giving you like a rangefinder experience like you would find in a Leica camera or something like that. It's crazy how good it is. It's crazy how fun it is to use, and it opens up your world to a ton of lenses that are just incredible, but are only manual focus, and it might scare some people away. But with a camera like the Z5, and I think the Z6 III now also has this, that came out a few months ago, you can put any of these manual focus lenses on there, and as long as you have a smart adapter, like I do with this TT Artisan 6-bit adapter, I can put any M-mount lens that I have, which I have now, which I'll talk about in just a second, and get all of those focus assist features. And now, like, I'll have to practice with this a little bit more before I can say this definitively, but I'm getting close to being able to manually focus with this lens and camera combination than I am with like autofocus on one of my Sony cameras. It's that good. and it helps you so much. And I really cannot believe that no other camera manufacturer has tried to steal any of these ideas yet, because it is a pleasure to use. So like I said, the only lens I have for this camera right now is this one M-mount lens. It is the Voigtlander 40mm 1.2. It is a very good lens. It does have a Z mount option, so you can put this on natively to your camera. It has electronic contacts and everything. So why did I get the M mount with the 6-bit adapter? Mainly it's so that I have the option of adapting this lens to any one of my other cameras, like my X-T5 if I ever wanted to, or one of my Sony cameras if I wanted to. Or if I ever were to upgrade to a GFX camera in the future, you can put M-mount lenses on a GFX. And so I kind of wanted that flexibility and that versatility. But I'm going to do a whole video on the Voigtlander 40mm within the next few weeks, where I'll go more in depth with all of that. So kind of be on the lookout for that. Now, I haven't used any autofocus lenses on this camera since I bought it. I did use it a little bit last year when I rented the ZF for a wedding that I did. Just wanted to try it out, and I got it with that 40mm f2, that Nikon, I think it's one of the kit lenses for the ZF. Great lens, loved it. I love the rendering I got from it. I love the results I got from that. The autofocus was very good, and so if I were to ever want to invest in any Z mount lenses and use autofocus on the ZF, I feel like I could do that pretty easily. But if I were to invest in any kind of autofocus experience on the ZF, the first thing I'm probably going to do is get one of those. I think Viltrox makes one, and so does, there might be one other company that makes it, but they have autofocus adapters to use your Sony E-mount lenses on ZF. And from what I understand from all my research, those seem to work very well and give you autofocus experiences that are just short of a native Z-mount experience, which is to say it's still very good. So I have a whole host of Sony E-mount lenses that I have access to, and so I think the most cost-effective thing for me, if I were to get involved in any kind of autofocus on the ZF, would be to get an adapter like that. That's not to say that I would never get a Nikon Z mount lens, but that's not really a priority for me right now. And the third reason I decided to buy the Nikon ZF is the aesthetics. I said this in my last video where I talked about leaving the X100V. At the very end, I mentioned that I got the Z5, and I said, and I stand by this, is that I am man enough to admit that this camera is really pretty looking, and that is kind of one of the main reasons I decided to buy it. It's clear that I'm a sucker for retro vintage styled anything really, but specifically cameras. It's one of the main reasons I got the X-T5. It's one of the main reasons I still pick it up and use it a lot. It's one of the reasons I got the X100V a few years ago as well. And that might sound really shallow on the surface, but any camera or any kind of piece of equipment that inspires you and encourages you to pick it up and use it is a good thing, because anytime you're taking more photos, that is a good thing. And that has so far been the case with the ZF. It is really pretty. It's got those retro dials. I love the more vintage looking Nikon logo that's on the front of it. I love the texture all over the camera. Just, it feels good in the hand. And speaking of feeling good in the hand, I actually don't even mind the ergonomics either. Yes, the kind of one of the big gripes that people have with this camera is the lack of grip on the front. And yeah, it does not have as much of a grip as almost any other camera on the market. And if I were to be holding it like in my hands all day long, it wouldn't be ideal for sure. But I often have this camera on a strap just hanging by my side when I'm using it, and I don't grip my camera super hard either. Also don't have a big heavy lens on it. Just 40mm 1.2 from Voigtlander is not that heavy. And so far, the lack of grip on the ZF has not really been a problem for me, but I haven't had the camera that long either, and I haven't used it like in an all-day scenario like a wedding or something like that. But I will be over the next few months. So be on the lookout for kind of my updated thoughts on the ZF and its ergonomics in future videos. Okay, let's wrap this up. So far, I am very happy with the Nikon ZF and this Voigtlander 40mm 1.2. I think it is an amazing combination. The Voigtlander has such great character to it, super fun to use, and with the manual focus assist features that the ZF has, it feels kind of like a match made in heaven. But it's important to note that I have not had this camera long at all. These are all just first impressions, and any of my thoughts here are subject to change over the next few months as I use it a lot more. So I can't really pass any definitive judgment on any of these things quite yet, but I am formulating these thoughts and taking a lot of mental notes along the way. I actually got my start with Nikon DSLRs several years ago when I first started my career. For like the first half of my career so far, I was shooting with Nikon DSLRs. I had the D3200, then I had the D7000, and then I got the D600, and then in 2018 is when I got the Sony A7 III and made the jump to mirrorless, sold all the Nikon stuff from there. But I owe a lot to Nikon, and you know, it really helped me get my start in my career, helped me kind of get noticed by the people who wanted me to shoot things for them. And so in a way, it feels like I'm coming home a little bit. I'm happy to be back on the Nikon train for a little while. I think Nikon's been doing really cool things with the mirrorless system, but they've just been lagging a little bit behind everybody else, which is why they've kind of gotten the reputation that they have. I think with the ZF and now the Z6 III and all these other newer cameras they have coming out, they're really making a name for themselves again. And I think you would be incorrect if you were to just discount Nikon completely because you think they're potato cameras. I think that's a really outdated way of looking at it. Nikon's doing really cool things, and I'm really glad to be a part of it for right now. So there will definitely be more content from my channel about the Nikon ZF over the next several months. And so if you have any questions about the camera or have anything you want me to try with it or anything like that, please feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to oblige you with my limited time and resources, but I'll do my best. I appreciate you watching and listening to me ramble about camera equipment yet again. I am doing one video a year. One video a year? That's not correct. I'm doing one video a week for the whole year of 2025 about anything and everything relating to photography and video production. So if you would like to be a part of that journey alongside me, feel free to subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, that's fine, because I will see you in the algorithm in 6 months.